The trip to the Fantasy Football Championship on the line. Every start-sit-em decision is crucial and possibly could haunt you for years to come, or maybe until next year's fantasy football draft. For our Week 15 sleepers, we help out those Carson Wentz owners with picks like Blake Bortles, Jimmy Garoppolo, and, even Wentz backup, Nick Foles, and we show trust in a Seattle backfield that has been untrustworthy all season with waiver-wire wonder Mike Davis. Also, Robert Woods may be back, but that shouldn't cause fantasy owners to bail on Sammy Watkins. Last week, we hit on every position with Jay Ajayi, Jimmy Garoppolo, Marquise Goodwin, Jason Witten, and the Bills' defense, among others. This week, we like the Saints' defense and Ted Ginn Jr., who was a Week 14 bust pick, and other players, like Isaiah Crowell and Ricky Seals-Jones, to help fantasy football owners survive and advance to next week. Go here for our Week 15 bust picks. Week 15 rankings: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, DST, kicker. Follow us at @SN_fantasy for more rankings, news and updates throughout the week. Week 15 fantasy football sleepers: running backs Isaiah Crowell, Browns vs. Ravens. Tony Benson, he's still struggling to find the end zone. 2 TDs all season, but he's posted 90-plus rushing yards in 3 of his past 5 games. The Ravens have given up 7 TDs to RBs in their past 3 games. Crowell gets his 3rd TD this season on top of plenty of yards. Mike Davis, Seahawks vs. Rams. Benny Iyer, he's the new Chris Carson, or the old Thomas Rawls, whatever that means. Anyway, they've settled again on an early down back, and the Rams are leaky against his type of runner. Derrick Henry, Titans at 49ers. Matt Lutovsky, Henry constantly teases fantasy owners with good games followed by duds. Just when you think he's about to take over in the Titans' backfield, DeMarco Murray gets more carries. Murray could easily have more carries again this week, but Henry should still produce against a 49ers defense allowing the 3rd most fantasy points to RBs. Full Week 15 RB rankings: Week 15 DFS Yahoo GPP lineup, Ycash DK Cash FD GPP stacks values, DFS lineup builder. Week 15 fantasy football sleepers: quarterbacks Blake Bortles, Jaguars vs. Texans. Benson, 3 straight games of 20-plus fantasy points and multiple touchdowns. Make it 4 straight against the Texans, ranked in top 5 in allowing the most passing TDs and fantasy points to QBs. Nick Foles, Eagles at Giants. Looking for a replacement for Carson Wentz? How about his direct backup with the keys to the high-powered Philly offense against the free-falling Big Blue D? Jimmy Garoppolo, 49ers vs. Titans. Lutovsky, with an average of 313.5 passing yards in his first 2 starts, it's only a matter of time before Garoppolo gets some TDs to further pad the stats. The Titans rank no. 22 against the pass, so this is a decent matchup for Garoppolo, too. Full Week 15 QB rankings: Week 15 fantasy football sleepers: wide receivers Sammy Watkins, Rams at Seahawks. Benson, Watkins scored in each game without Robert Woods, but let's not forget he also scored a touchdown in 2 games leading up to Woods' injury, making it 5 TDs in the past 6 games. Also, the Seahawks are sneakily in the top 10 for most fantasy points allowed to WRs. Watkins won't be forgotten with Woods back. Ted Ginn Jr., Saints vs. Jets. Michael Thomas will probably draw some containment from Morris Claiborne, which should set up 1 home run scoring play to Ginn. Chris Hogan, Patriots at Steelers. Lutovsky. Hogan managed just 1 catch for 1 yard in his return to action last week, though he was inches away from getting a 2nd foot down in the end zone on an almost TD catch in the 4th quarter. With Gronk back, fantasy owners are likely leery of Hogan, but the Steelers' pass defense hasn't been particularly sharp lately, allowing 8 WR touchdowns since the start of Week 10. Even if Joe Hayden-Leg returns this week, Hogan is in play. Full Week 15 WR rankings: Week 15 fantasy football sleepers: tight ends Adam Shaheen, Bears at Lions. Benson. Desperate times may call for desperate measures for some fantasy teams, and Shaheen is a good desperation call. He has 2 touchdowns in 3 games, and the Lions' defense has given up 5 TDs to TEs in its past 4 games, including 1 to Shaheen. Benjamin Watson, Ravens at Browns. Watson dropped 91 yards on 8 catches in their first matchup, and Cleveland keeps struggling to cover the position. Ricky Seals-Jones, Cardinals at Redskins. Lutovsky, remember this guy. After bursting onto the scene with 3 TDs in his first 2 games, RSJ has only 3 catches and 64 yards the past 2 contests. Those were unfavorable matchups against the Titans and Rams, though. Against the Redskins, who allow the second most fantasy points to T's, Seals Jones should produce again. Full Week 15 Tay Rankings. Week 15 Fantasy Football Sleepers. Defenses: Washington Redskins vs. Cardinals. 40 Benson. In 4 starts this season, Blaine Gabbert has looked worse and worse. It's not his fault, as he's been sacked 15 times in 2 weeks. Redskins, who have had 2 sacks in all but 2 games, will create pressure and cause turnovers. New Orleans Saints vs. Jets. Bryce Petty will be super mistake-prone in the Superdome against Cameron Jordan. Full Week 15 DST Rankings. Buffalo Bills vs. Dolphins. Lutovsky. More snow could be in the forecast in Buffalo this weekend, and with Jay Cutler coming to town on a short week, that should mean all sorts of good things for the Bills. DST.